remembering the people I met along the way who in many ways helped in my journey. Next. Okay, so I have 10 minutes and I will show you a bit about what the future of the profession is going to be like. Okay, so I've gone into solar just before just before COVID hit in February. I added 25 kilowatt peak to my house. Wait, just hang on. My house in 2010, I had 5 kilowatt peak under the government Surya scheme. And suddenly the price of solar panels became so cheap that I could afford 25 kilowatt additional. When I bought it in 2010, architects must be good with figures, right? 1 kilowatt peak was 24,000 ringgit. 1 kilowatt, okay, peak. In 2020, 1 kilowatt peak was 4,000 ringgit. 24,000 dropped to 4,000, 6 times drop. So suddenly I could afford it. So I added 25 kilowatt peak on top of my roof. Today I have 30 kilowatt. I have, 20 plus 5. I have 25 kilowatt peak on my roof. I only need about 18. So I'm actually off the grid. Okay. Next. So this was the original array. These were the new added ones. Next. I'm now looking at batteries. So battery technology has changed drastically. And this is a very important one. Okay. If you look at Elon Musk, he's got this giga storage that is now in San Francisco. Next. So solar power, we applied it to our projects. This is the network in Setia Eco Park. The whole of it is the world's first solar powered hybrid F&B. Next. And I went to bamboo because I believe that bamboo is the material of the future. It grows very fast in the right conditions. The first 3 years is very slow. Then after that, it just goes and goes. In the right condition, it can grow 1 foot a day. And it's a grass. And we published a book called Bamboo Arc 1. And it's got the introduction and demystifying how to build in bamboo. So there are diagrams there to teach you how to build. Just like how I did the tea colony. In some sense, I'm trying to make this something that normal people can use. There's a huge bamboo community coming out in Malaysia because we are like 20, 30 years behind our neighbors. But that community is growing. There's a Malayan Bamboo Society. Engineer Maslan was the boss there for a while. Now Ramadan is the boss, and he's like he looks like Thor. Good looking guy, and he travels everywhere to learn. So I encourage you all to get into it. I also believe that bamboo is the material for space. Okay, why I say that is because in space there's no gravity. Okay, let's say in Mars there's no gravity. All you need to do is to have something to keep your building from flying off, not lift it off the ground. You need to keep it from flying off. And it's a very light material, stronger in tensile than steel because of the cellulose fiber. And the best thing about it is you can actually plant it in a tube. In the right conditions, you put a seed in a tube, you put a light source at the end. Theoretically, it should grow in a tube. It doesn't need to grow straight up. So if you take the Falcon Heavy, which is Elon Musk's spacecrafts, you can put tubes all over the storage area. You put a light source at one end, you put the plant there. When you reach Mars in 8 months, you will have bamboo poles, okay, theoretically. So again, I'm saying theoretically because I follow the laws of nature. If some of you all want to be a multi-billionaire, you can patent it, but make sure you give some money back to the school. Next. I've always been involved in social work with the Orang Asli. This was a competition that we won jointly with the writer of the book for another version. I'm now looking at building the prototype. So it's a bamboo building for Orang Asli. Next. I think COVID has come. Many say it has come and gone. Next. We are now in hyperinflation. Next. We never thought war would come, but it has come. and looks like it's here to stay in Europe. We hear rumblings of war in Taiwan, Southeast Asia, which is very close to us. So take note of this, because you need to be a resilient people. I think after sustainability, now the word we hear a lot of is resilience. And I told my kids, I got 2 sons. One is studying architecture. I say, if I leave you in the jungle, you won't survive 5 days. They don't even know how to hold a parang. So these are things that some of us grew up in. We used to go fishing, camping, and all this. We know how to survive. I planted tapioca in my house, and I gave the cuttings to my driver to plant, and he planted it upside down. He still doesn't. He thought the sharp, thinner part is to poke in the ground, but usually the thinner part is to face up, because that's where the shoot comes up. And he planted it straight down. I told him plant it sideways so it's easy to harvest the tapioca. So these are lessons in life, and I think resilience is very important. Next. Oh, war and peace. That's the rumblings that we are seeing. I think it's inevitable there will be some skirmishes. It might not be all-out war, but brace for it. Next. I think shelter will continue to be very important. My office, not that we are warmongers or we are fearmongers, I have set my office to do a task of designing a war bunker. You know, war bunker should not be done in an emergency. It should be thought out, and actually, you can make it as nice as Tadao Ando's off-form concrete. Okay, but if you do it in an emergency, you got 5 days to build it, then it will be a hole in the ground. But I have set people to study this in my office about resilience. In the past, we used to hear about preppies in America, all those guys who are fearing for war, they got tons of ammunition. I don't think you need to go to that extreme, but you should know how to survive, or at least keep your family safe. Singapore, for some reason, used to have a security room, but because of the cost of real estate, a few years back, they have removed the security room. So when people start to feel secure, that's the time not to be secure. Next. Crypto is here. Next. NFTs came, still around. Next. The metaverse is the future. The metaverse, when you end up in space, you want to go fishing, there's no fishing. You want to go mountain climbing, there's no mountain climbing. But there will be a metaverse. And you can go into a green room or a blue room, and you can simulate, you can actually go fishing. Okay, and these are things, you can spend one whole generation away, or 2 generations in Mars. Why some of us believe that is because of the 5 degrees to destruction. We believe that the earth will be destroyed because humans will never change. In COVID, it was a lesson where nature came and slapped us one good slap, but we thought we will be a different people coming out, but we came out even stupider. And we are still destroying the environment. We have not changed. Coal is now being burned more than pre-COVID. And all because of the war and so on and so forth. They can't use oil, they can't use gas, so they are going back into coal. And we will rapidly destroy the earth. But one thing for sure, the earth can recover, but it needs like maybe 50 years of no human intervention. And then the frogs will reappear, the jungles will grow back. And it's called rewilding. I think it's a principle that's been around a few years. Those of you who don't believe in rewilding, you jaga your kebun, 1 month you don't cut the grass, you see rewilding. Nature comes back very strong, but we got to take our hand off it. So when you are in Mars for 10 years, you got nothing to do, the metaverse is your only source. It's better than Netflix, better than Astro. Okay, next. There's also this interesting phenomena of population decline. Next. Communications. Starlink has proven, and again it's under one man, Elon Musk. In war, the only thing that worked was his Starlink. Okay, and Ukraine has proven it. If there's no Starlink, you cannot communicate. You want to WhatsApp to your boyfriend or girlfriend, you can't even do that. So eventually, Starlink will control communications. Next. Rise of AI is already here. Next. And some of you know ChatGPT. I hope you are not doing all your essays with that and answering all your questions, but it's here. It's incredible. It's powerful. I used to give this talk for many years, and I heard it from a Microsoft talk I attended, where he said, don't worry. I asked about architects. He said, don't worry. Computers cannot do three things. Number one, it cannot do compassion. That means nursing and all this, okay? It cannot do collaboration. That means he said one computer cannot collaborate with another. I was quite surprised about it. But the one I was so happy to hear was, he said that computers cannot create. It's a God-given gift to mankind. I said, I'll still have a job. Then it changed. It moved from narrow AI that are intelligent to build machines, to plant seed, to make things. And then suddenly it starts to gain knowledge, and it can tell you how you can answer your questions. And before long, it will become super AI. They will become smarter than us. Okay, next. So there's this, this is something you must learn because it's your generation, it will affect you. I have friends and a relative who was called back to Berkeley University because she's a language expert. She's my sister-in-law actually. And she's now working on the Turing test. The Turing test is named after the guy who invented the Enigma code breaker. Those of you who watched World War II, after the war was won not because of Hiroshima and all this. It was because of one man coming up with an Enigma machine to break the code of the Nazis. And he knew where all the ships were. They sank all the ships. And they knew where they were doing whatever they were doing. This test is named after him. It's known as the Turing test. So AI is trying very much to become human. Now, if you don't believe me, I'll just share a bit about this because I think it's important. Because one day, lecturers won't know whether it's you who submitted the work or an alien bot. Okay, now I tell you how it has changed. In the past, when you go into some sites to buy things, it's got 6 pictures or 8 pictures tell you which one has traffic light. So you used to pick the one traffic light. Because the time the AI not smart enough to tell what's a traffic light. Today, it doesn't tell you that. It tells you select things 1, 2, 3, 4 in sequence. And sometimes it gives you variables to make sure you're not a bot. Taylor Swift had a concert last year, and her fans were very angry because all her tickets were sold within a few hours and not bought by the fans. So it went up in Senate, and the ticket master, which was the company that does all this ticketing worldwide, they were taken to task, and they were asked what happened. They said, we got attacked by bots. So when you want to buy tickets, you have to identify your rail because they don't want one guy buy all and then sell at double the price. It's called scalping. These bots have gained such intelligence, it could break the code, Whatever code you ask them to do, how many traffic light, how many numbering, the thing, within a few seconds, they became real. And they bought a bulk of tickets. So this is very dangerous because in democracy, one man, one vote. Your next election, the bots could have taken all your votes. And people who know how to use the bots, I'm sure all of you know. My youngest son knows, okay? He can create bots and they can have their own intelligence. So the bot's role is to learn to be human, okay? Next. So the Turing test tries to differentiate human behavior and intelligent behavior. So it knows you are human because you are not so smart. But if every answer you answer, you are perfect, you are likely a bot. Okay? So in Malaysia, in my office, I know none of my staff are bots. Because every time I ask them something, they get it wrong. Okay? Or you go to government's department, you ask for something, he will tell you the wrong information. So you know this guy is not a robot. But the Turing test is becoming harder and harder to differentiate it. Next. I think that's something for academia to address. And I don't know how you're addressing it because that day we did one submission and I had 5 keywords. I always have a DNA for my project. and I had biophilia. I had some incredible words, you know. I was so shocked at the report given, you know, the short 2 paragraphs given by my staff. I read it, I couldn't believe they could have written it. And I asked them, where do you get this? Oh, we just went to ChatGPT and it gave us the text, we just pasted it on. And already it's coming into the business sector, okay? You all know what ChatGPT next? Lexica. You want to design something like Who Style, you just key in some keywords, it designs for you. So today when you look at artist's work, you don't know whether it's actually generated from a computer and he just painted oil paint over it, or it's real, you know, interesting blurring of the boundaries. Next. Next. So in some sense, how many have been to the Sistine Chapel in Rome? Anyone? Next picture. This is the Sistine Chapel. On the roof, on the ceiling, is all the paintings are by Michelangelo. Okay, and Michelangelo was an amazing artist. Okay, so let me go one step back. Art was always for God. Okay, you think about it. In the early days, art was in temples, it was in mosques, it was not so much mosque, but calligraphy and so on. But in the church, you knew that the art, when you come, the poor man, when he come into a church and look in the ceiling and he says, wow, God is here. So God owned the art, okay? Through the years, art has come down to common people. So in the last 100 years, you find the Rockefellers, the people who build steel mills, they became art collectors. So it has come down. Then the last 20 years, Leonardo DiCaprio, the film stars, they are all art collectors, including Jolo and financiers. And today, art collectors can be anybody. So in some sense, you find that art has come from something that only could be afforded by the church, God, or the lords, you know, the lords of countries. When you come and see the Sistine Chapel, for some reason, even though all these are Michelangelo's work, everyone is just looking at this one piece. I mean, you get very surprised when you go there and you ask this question, why is that piece so significant? Next. And it's the creation of Adam by Michelangelo, and you find God and Adam reaching out. I don't know, you're old enough to remember a movie called E.T., Extraterrestrial. I want to go home. It was, the image was this image of an extraterrestrial touching man. And, you know, for all our life, humanity has been trying to find immortality. They are trying to find or touch God. So in some sense, why I showed this is because in architecture, we collaborate. I'm writing that book with Wo Chong-Nia and all these people because I want to, I find that they have broken through somewhere that I've never been before. I want to touch them, okay? Not in the wrong sense. Nowadays you have to be very clear, no? But I just want to touch and find their influence, and in some sense become a bit more like them. To me, they have transcended. They have had time to develop into another area. So likewise, where you're at, don't ever think that you're an architect in a shell. Always, when you see somebody, you read about somebody who does good work, it doesn't matter. Go up to them and just say, I want to meet you, I admire your work, and I hope that I can learn something from you. And that's the whole story about this. People go there and they look at this one particular painting because in all their hearts and lives, they want to find that special inspiration. And fathers and children, when they look at it, they look at the child and they wish they can transfer something of they want to the child. And when the child looks at it, they look at their father and they think, I want to learn something from that. And this whole thing is a lot to do with where we are today in AI. Next. Space. I'm a true believer of space. I believe that if it's not my generation, my son's generation, will become a spacefaring people. So learn to adapt, learn to what space architecture is about. Next. Okay. 2019, I was class director. I had the privilege of having the NASA architect, European Union architect, similar to NASA here. And I asked her, because those of us who have been involved in sustainability and resilience, we all know that the last mile is food. Okay, so I asked her, what is this last mile that, because the technology is all there already. Elon Musk has already got the technology to take things up to space and return. Okay, what caused the return was a fundamental change in technology. It was called Google Earth. You don't know how Google Earth has changed the way we travel. You can go to a place, you don't even know where it is, got no inkling, but Google Earth will take you there. Waze uses some sort of mapping like Google Earth. Elon Musk, all his spacecrafts can never land back on the same spot without global positioning. And it is now available to everyone. So I asked her, what is the last mile that we need to close for space? And she said, it's food, which I also thought was food, because it was the hardest thing to do. And she said that China already is the most advanced, more than any other country. So you find Elon Musk is not bothered to develop it because they will use the technology that's being developed by another country. There's this huge space station that is already up there, and it's called Heavenly Palace. As usual, Chinese like to name their things after Chinese restaurants. Yeah. Next. And in the middle of the Gobi Desert, they have put people into laboratories, cannot come out. So they have simulated it, where they use, they what do you call that? They use a brush and they germinate fruit. You know, they take the pollen and they make fruit grow. And they have bats, because for some big fruits, they need the bats. So all these are creatures that actually produce food. Next. So 2018, in my journey of sustainability and green, you know, you ask an engineer, he can make a building green for you. It just costs money and technology. But the one that was hardest to solve was food. So I bought a farm and I went into farming, and it's damn hard. So I planted the thing that you can never fail, which is coconut and a bit of durian. So the coconut is starting to that was when I first appeared there. It was like I was a Martian in space. And all around me are acacia trees, which are terrible. They are the enemy of all farmers. So I will share more about this maybe in 5 years' time when I start to cultivate, start to do a harvest. Next. So in the end, I put it that nature wins. I saw that if you leave the earth a while without intervention, it will grow back. It will recover. But it must take all the naughty people out of it. And once the naughty people are not there, it will grow back. The frogs will come back. I'm not sure about dinosaurs, but definitely some creatures that we thought were extinct will come back out. But when we come back in, we need to come back a smarter and more resilient and sustainable people. Next. So can we return to the Garden of Eden? In some sense, I'm now in practice 30 over years, 35, 36 years. I still remember this time, you know, when I was on top of the road looking down at Pitta Maha, and I thought I saw paradise. So in some sense, it's been a full circle of nearly 40 years now. Next. The blissful life in the tropics. Thank you very much. I'll take some questions. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Has it been boring? Okay, that is an architect's life. Okay. So don't ever think that it's architecture or it's a boring life. I met so many interesting people, and I had so many adventures. I used to tell my staff, when I was PAM president, I went on site in Setia Alam. I was talking to Nepalese workers digging a sewer line. After that, I came back to office, I cleaned up. In the afternoon, I was meeting a minister. You know, straight from sewer to meeting the minister. I did wash my hand. But you know, no other profession in the world takes you from the bottom to the top. And it is an incredible journey. And everything you learn along the way, don't discard it. Write a journal, because when you're 40 years later, you can tell your children about your journey. Yeah. Any questions?
So any question from you guys? Just raise up your hand and ask. Question 1? No question? You sure? Question 2? Question 3? Yeah, over there. Hanif is a home. Is it? Oh, you don't have question. I think there's one question from that guy over there. Adib, please. Yeah. Nenek gitu kan?
Software to do what? Oh, there are tons of it. What 3D software do you use? Are you on Revit? Grasshopper? Rhino? I think in practice we just concentrate on what the industry uses. Yeah, I think you should be more advanced than me on that.
This is really seductive of being an architect, you know. But you know, there is a dark force in the tropics as well, which is working against this. That is air conditioning. So you know very well how our wish to go towards that, while at the same time, you know, air conditioning is pushing us to the dark side. So how would you deal with this thing?
Thanks for the question. I think when we did Green Building Index, it was a step towards that direction. Some have visited my house. My house has no air conditioning, only in the bedrooms. And it's very pleasant. I held a party there last Monday. I haven't held a party since my housewarming because my wife banned me from parties for 10 years from having it in the house. So I wanted to test when there's a lot of people in the house whether it works. And it was cool right through. Initially, we didn't open the sliding doors because my house is like an insulated, you know, vacuum. I got a well insulated roof, so the temperature in the house is always 25 degrees. So I don't normally open my sliding doors in the daytime. So when everyone came, and because there were more and more people in the place, humidity started to build up. So I opened all my sliding doors and the breeze started coming through, and once humidity was removed, it became pleasant. So in some sense, you know, when I studied architecture in Australia, we were always told about louvers and cross ventilation. Ever since I did GBI in my house, I realized that it cannot be fixed louvers. It needs control, either human control or motorized control. And if you look at in Bali as well, they do shut down. When it rains heavily, they do have blinds, you know, and in some sense, it is a machine for living. So Corbusier, where he termed the word, you know, it's a machine for living in, is exactly what a house is. I have no real solution for air conditioning for big buildings and offices, but you can use more energy efficient equipment. But looking at the population of the earth and the amount of destruction, that's why I believe that we must prepare for the worst. I'm not a prophet of doom and gloom, but I believe that architecture gives us, the course of architecture gives us the ability to think and to plan ahead. So there are some things that you can do so that if calamity comes upon us suddenly, you have a way out for you and your family and your loved ones and your office. So I have no clear solution for that. That's why I believe that there are some of us who believe that I don't think I'll be the generation that gets to go off the earth, but I hope my kids will get an opportunity to maybe go off for a while and let the earth revolve itself. Yeah. So in some sense, I guess it's a lost cause. Any other questions? Those of y'all who want to see my final year student work, my thesis is in the museum. Yeah. So go and look at it. Yeah. I drew all those drawings by hand because those days it was pre-computer days. So go and look at it, and if you tell me you can't produce anything for your studies, I did that in my 5th year. Okay. There are quite a few. It's right in the city center, Changkat Bukit Bintang, that area. So you stop in Bukit Bintang also can, MRT, and the monorail also is there. Yeah. You go to the website, it's called ermu.com. There's a transport map, how you can get there by public transport. Go and have a look. I think hopefully it might inspire you. Any other questions? Yeah. In Copenhagen. I don't think I can make it because I'll be in Norway just before that. So I don't think I want to travel twice. Yeah. Yeah. Haven't decided. Yeah,
All right. So maybe we can have another question from master students. Where is master student? Maybe one last question from master student.
I just want to encourage you all to ask questions because like the finger touching God. In Indonesia, when I give a talk, there's no end to questions until they have to stop the thing. So the Indonesians are very hungry for knowledge. And I think sometimes we have become a bit, either we are all too smart or we already know it all. But learn to ask questions, be bold, speak up. The Indonesian students are very, very aggressive.
Yes, that one guy.
Okay. Tropical Malaysian House 1, published by Robert Powell, has some of the criteria. So if you buy the book, you can get it. But in summary, he actually summarized. He was an editor for one of the very early books of the Aga Khan when there was a conference here in the 70s, and he summarized it from what he gleaned from then, and also from his discussions with Jeffrey Bawa and Charles Correa, and also from his findings as he has traveled around the tropics. So number one is, he said that it must have a good roof. That means it has insulation. And after I did green building, I realized that the roof is very important. And because once moisture comes through, it will cause humidity build up. Okay, and it also defends you from the sun. And the other one, he said it should have overhangs. Okay, and he said that it must have cross ventilation. Me having done green buildings, I would say controllable cross ventilation. He said that you should preserve as much of the trees and greenery around the site. That means Don't do like a terrace house, got a bit of green, you concrete it because you don't want to cut the grass. Because every time you get rid of greenery, it builds heat. Okay, and he mentioned about yeah, basically those are the main principles. Yeah. I think to deal with heat in the tropics is not difficult. It's dealing with humidity. Yeah, so that one is something that is quite hard to do. That's why I lock down my house in daytime, because the humidity outside is very high, especially after the rain. So I try not to get the 80-90% humidity into my house, because after that there's no way to get rid of it except by air conditioning, and it takes a long time if you are using cross ventilation to bring the humidity back down. I have a lot of friends who want to move to Janda Baik and all these places. I always tell them the problem, but I haven't got the solution. And the big problem there is super humidity. So I got a friend who has an art gallery there, and all his Chinese paintings were destroyed because when he wake up in the morning, there's actually water on the glass, you know, and the watercolor, the paper, all were actually damp. And very fast, in 8 months, I think he lost his whole collection. So I've always known that problem. So the only way to get rid of humidity there is actually cold. You don't need air condition to cool you down, but you need air condition to move the humidity from 80-90% to 80-90% to 55%. You see, air conditioning does one thing many of us don't understand. We think that it's to cool us, but it is actually to condition the air. It takes out the humidity. This room would never work without air conditioning, because the amount of breath that the moisture that's coming out from our breathing, if you go and find the condensation pipe, it's literally from each aircon, it's literally like a tap water half open. It's like that. Yeah. So the tropics with a cold temperature, I haven't really got a solution for, because when you cross ventilate it, the humidity just gets worse. So I always tell my friends, Janda Bai is nice to visit. I go and visit my friends' houses, but I'm not so keen to live there because I can't control, I can't manage the humidity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I don't know. You should ask your lecturers. I think my wife also does training, and she says that and she's also doing her PhD. She says that the whole academic line is a bit trying to deal with this whole issue. I cannot answer you on that because even LAM doesn't have any guidelines. But the technology is there, and I don't know how you can stop it. So, yeah, please do save me.
I think that is an interesting question because I think last year I saw online there is this AI software that works for industrial designer. You ask it to design a bicycle, it can generate the structure or the technology. Not only that, if you say to it that this bicycle is for a youth, so it will change the design to suit the taste of the youth, you know. So that's how powerful it is. So I think it is not too far out there to say that in the future we will have bots designing building for us. After all, it is a lot of calculation, right? So what we need to do next is to find what do we actually do that differentiate us from AI. So I think that is something that I already challenged the department to do. Try to identify what makes us human, you know. Answering that question would answer this question. not only Turing test. I think Turing test has a limit in itself, you know, because now it has been proven that AI can overcome Turing test, right, Dr. Loman? So, but something else, maybe in this line, would you accept if somebody, we can accept that if a building is being designed by artificial intelligence, right? But can you accept if somebody give you artificial love? How does it feel? No? Does that work? It doesn't work, right? Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a good answer. Okay. So try to think around that area. You know. So good question. Try to think about it a lot, and maybe.
I think you have to, you cannot bury your head in the sand about the technology change because it has moved from that to that. I think you just have to, I think academia has a lot of questions it needs to address, and how they want to assess, you know, the future, whether they assess you as a human or a human who uses AI very well. I mean, just if you treat it like just how good a person uses CAD or 3D, then I guess it should be how well the human collaborates or uses AI to the extent that they become groundbreaking. It's totally new, and I think you all should push the boundaries so that the lecturers get, you know, shocked and they have to find an answer for you. Yeah. Taming AI, yeah. But you know, I've tried that before. You know, just now how you tell a bot is they're always right? So I noticed my wife is always right, and all through the years I failed to tame it, or to tame her. Okay, any other questions? Don't repeat that, please. Oh, is it? Oh dear, shit. Sorry. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so maybe we can have last question. Anyone randomly? Last question. Okay,
yes.
sorry.
Okay, that is a very good question. So you can cite, when you read, you know, before you sleep, you read the latest news. You find that Ukraine had that, it had technological stop because of the war, and they had to rely on certain technologies. One was, of course, Starlink, satellite dishes. I really believe if you are building for resilience, that's why I show you battery, I show you solar. Today, those who are camping, you know, you're a fisherman or you like camping, you can buy a solar thing that you can charge your handphone. I don't know if you've seen it. You should buy one. Okay, it's very, very cheap. People take it in their camper vans. So when they arrive in a camping site or fishing site, they open the array, which is just like a folded mirror, and it collects charge into a battery enough to charge all their handphones, all their smart devices. Because you look at the smart device in the past, it needed a lot of electricity. Now you see the smart devices in your phone. It needs very little electricity. So the only thing is how to generate the electricity and to store it. So the technology is already there. So maybe one interesting project you can do is to design a wall bunker. Okay, how you cannot be found, how you can be biophilically, you know, in the earth itself, or, you know, you are so hidden, but at the same time, you are enjoying all the pleasures of life. And you got your technology, you got, of course, once internet is down, you have to use Starlink. That's the only way. So you need a satellite dish, which you can now buy from Starlink. It's just that it doesn't provide the service in Malaysia because our governments control this sort of radio waves. But my brother has one in the US. Not cheap yet, but he bought it to test it. So some countries already have it. Australia can use. Yeah. So I think you raised a very good question. These are always called the missing last mile. And people who discover these missing last miles, they normally invent a product and become very rich. Okay, it is part of architecture. It's things you discover. So you got to discover new things that are missing in this gap. There are so many things missing from this gap. Okay, so once you discover the missing part, you can actually make a lot of money from it. Okay, then after that you can do any architecture you want. You can tell your client, you know, if you don't want to hire me, blah blah. Okay, no more questions. I just want to encourage you all, don't give up on your architecture course. It's I still believe after so many years, it's the best profession. It's the best education. It gives you the breadth and width and depth of you won't get in any other course. Okay, you don't believe, you talk to an engineer, he's quite boring. But architects, we are quite well-rounded, and don't just limit yourself to building. Expand yourself. Look at plants, look at sustainability, look at bamboo. Get interested in your young age, because a lot of things you meet along the way, they will come back later in many years to bless you. Okay, thank you so much.
Marcel Proust famously said, "It's not a matter changing our landscape, but of changing our eyes." Thank you, Dr. Tan Lok Moon, for changing the way we see Next Asia. So, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that our program has reached its end. It is highly hoped that everyone gained something valuable out of our presentation today. So once again, thank you for your attendance, and till we meet again. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.